Okay, I think we're good to start here. This is going to be your VoD review for your Graves game. I think we can see, yeah, we got your op.gg pulled up right now. Before we actually look at the VoD itself, there's just a few things that are worth going over beforehand. Your runes and your builds, that's all standard and core. There's really no surprises here. A few things that are important is that you definitely went against a Smurf that game. This guy's been on a tear, so it's not a surprise to see him kind of bully you out of the jungle, and we kind of see it from the very moment the game starts. So that's why this is especially important to look at and just see what I mean. You went up against a very skilled jungle player here. And what highlights that once we see this guy get ahead of you in these graphs right here, this is gold over the course of the game, then this is XP. He never falls back behind. He maintains his entire game and the lead only gets bigger. This green line is what you want your VAR to look like over the enemy in the games where you're ahead as jungle. But specifically, the time we want to look at when it happens is sometime after like 10 to 11. So what point in the game does he get a lead that he's able to hold on to for the rest of the game? Because something had to happen for him to stay ahead like this. So this is probably the big turning point in the game. I believe this is also a dragon fight. Process this. Your build, your item build is something that we'll get into with context in the game once the it'll make more sense. So we're just gonna save it for that. The kill map here. Looking at your deaths, they're kind of a little bit everywhere. You can definitely tell that your team was kind of losing this game, right? You never really got to venture out. And there's actually two parts in the VoD where you did attempt to venture out and you were punished by the enemy team because you didn't have pressure on the rest. Specifically in area. But seeing that you have two deaths under their mid tower, you also see kind of what leads to those. The game was kind of already decided at this point. These were desperation kills. I think that is just about everything that I think we'll look at before the video starts. Make sure. Just so I don't have to open it and re-minimize it again. This is video from a challenger Korean Graves, and we're going to look at how he clears his wolf camp, and then we're going to compare this to the first time that you clear it. This is the difference in how you should probably be clearing this every time. And it's worth knowing that once this guy's done clearing this, he has significantly more HP than you do at the end of it. Okay, this pause right here, specifically what we're looking at, he hits all of the camp with all of his Q. You don't necessarily do this consistently, and this is actually incredibly the Graves jungle. You can't be missing bullets and missing Qs. This is part of your clear speed. This is basically a core mechanic of playing this guy. You have to hit the entire camp with all of your Q. We're just gonna watch it one more time. Notice how he uses fleet. That's what we're looking at. He gets as far away from them as possible so that they chase him in a straighter line, and then he fires his the entire camp. They're forced to walk over it because he's far away from it, and the skill shot leads directly back to him. This is something you need to be playing. But with that out of the way, I think it's finally time to hit the VoD. Alright, so seeing the win streak that enemy Evelyn was on, it's good to know why. Right at the start of the game here, at 15 seconds when the gates go down, looks like they were a little slow. But all of a sudden he's off and running. You are actually still in the fountain right now. He didn't even leave immediately, and yet he still got out here faster than you did, because as you can see, you are only finally leaving the fountain 15 seconds after the gates went down.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
I think you know what, or you remember what happens here. That is not how you want to start a game. So what you should have done instead, we're gonna go back to 15 seconds. Notice how he still hasn't moved yet. You would have had plenty of time to buy your item and then still get here in time, because he didn't even get off the platform until 20 seconds. Now it is nice that you don't start an ability yet. Generally, you start E on Graves, just because it gives you the extra reload. It helps you take less damage from your camp, but you should typically just not start an ability while you're sitting in the fountain. Okay, so this is where you get caught. We're going to rewind just a little bit. The reason why you would not want to take an ability is because if you were to get here sooner, you should already be waiting here at about this time. So if you were already in this bush, we go forward a little bit, and then you get to start Q, seeing that they're invading, you could hit Evelyn with an auto attack and dump your entire Q on their entire invade before they even get to see you. I'm willing to bet that if you get here first, Garen and Yasuo also more likely to get here quicker. Especially if you spam ping, that you need to defend this. If you start roaring out of the fountain immediately, your team is less likely to take as long as well. So if you get here first and you start Q and you hit Evelyn and Singed with all of that, I'm willing to bet that they turn around immediately and that they don't even get wards in here. They might still drop one in here, but I am almost 100% confident that they would not continue with the invade if you hit Evelyn with all three of those abilities before she even reaches the bush. They would probably all turn around, because the risk of Garen and Yasuo already being in here as well would be too great. And this Evelyn would probably know that. She'd immediately turn around. But because you're not here, they get to walk right in. There's no reason they should ever be in your anymore, and it costs you your flash. Now, before we keep looking at the rest of the video, all 5 of your flashes this game were actually bad in the fact that none of them got you to do productive offensive things. They were all to save your own life or get you out of danger. And when you're playing the jungle, your flashes generally should be used to put pressure on the enemy, not just to keep you alive. Now your team helps you. But they got the vision, and then they got your flash, which that just shouldn't happen. But we're gonna fast forward. And this is when we're gonna carry your go for the scuttle first, that's right. Now this is when we watch what Evelyn's doing instead. We can see you on the map. Evelyn needs a better jungler in this space. I don't know why she makes it. So she went for red, and she finishes with blue red. We're gonna rewind and okay, real quick. We're just gonna try to keep things consistent here. You're finishing scuttle by the time she gets to her blue. Okay. You hop over the wall, but you completely miss one of the minions, or one of the wolves with your Q, which is 141 damage that you did not do to that wolf. This means that this wolf's going to end up doing more damage to you, and the whole camp is going to take longer to clear. You need to hit the entire camp with your entire Q. This is just lazy. It's worth noting that when the player in the video finished the wolf camp, he was, I believe, either the same amount of HP or it was less than 100 difference when he finished it. I believe he lost about 150 HP on this camp. It also took you about probably 3 seconds. These things add up a lot, especially against the player who's put a lot of pressure. And we're going to rewind one more time to keep things consistent. This is super important because early game pathing by jungles is usually what decides how a game plays out, barring solo kills happening in the side lane or even mid. So in order to compare how you guys both got here at a similar time, I need to see how she got here first. So she does her blue and finishes outside scuttle. Start red. So it kind of matches up. You're matching each other in floor speeds at the moment, but I think you should be a little further along than you are if you were more efficient. We're gonna slow this down. Now, the way you kited red and smite at the end so that you're full HP by the time you reach where you need to be, pretty good. You did take 1 extra auto, but you're still healthier than the Eve, I believe. So you see her spawn the tank, but you're spending back out. So you're mostly matching her early on, but a few seconds here and a few seconds there where you could have been here quicker and had maybe 100 more HP. I think you could see how potentially this works out better in your favor. Now this is just, you know, a battle of inches. These are very small things, but they add up. But we're gonna keep going forward here. We're actually gonna fast forward. Actually, no, this is where you get faded. So you not being able to get here quicker and be healthier and possibly take more damage off of this Evelynn, let's say maybe she's at 250 HP, not 400, this all of a sudden might not even happen because they also know that you have no flash. So this is actually a very easy fight for them to take. Your Garen can't help, and you've already started to take even more damage because you started the wolves. We're gonna back up one more time. So you know they're chasing you. And then when you see her take this plant, it should be obvious that they're probably gonna come attack you because you still have flash. They do. And because you're already hurt and there's 2 of them, this is not a fight you can take. You shouldn't even be here right now. Now, it stinks because you know she's going to take your jungle, but that's just tough. What you should be doing right now is not trying to take this because you don't win this fight. You should probably be going Grump or trying to find a gank bot side or even going straight down this way and taking her golems. Right here, you are starting a fight that you can't win. Yasuo has to come help you, and he does finish this fight for you in a good way, but it doesn't work out for him in the end because you kind of forced him to help you. This just isn't a fight that should happen. Or watch. It doesn't go all wild. Just go so you died, but Singed flashed, and you get to pass off. Yes. So on the surface, this doesn't look too bad. Only problem is you also lost your Wraith camp, and Evelynn still has her flash, and so does Ari. Ari also still has barrier. So even though you got your Yasuo double buffs here, it was at the cost of your Wraith camp, it was at the cost of your life, and it was at the cost of Yasuo's sums and a chunk of his HP. So what happens next really is not all that surprising. Now you're getting back to your jungle right now, but we're going to go back to the rest of the map. Try to get your plus. Yasuo should not have gone in, but you know, you can't control what he does, right? You were probably hoping that with double buffs, he would probably play safe and then do well. But he goes in and they just kill him. because he's silly. But because he didn't have flash, possibly get away, and Eve does, you see how she knows that she can do this. Go back to when you guys caught here. Now it shows that she doesn't have a flash here, but that's just a spectator bug. She still has her flash. So she knows Yasuo doesn't have flash. She knows you're not going to be here because you died and you're on your way back. She has all the time in the world to fight this guy. Once she sees him go back, you see how quick she turns. And without her flash, you can't even see this. But you see how what I mean by a battle of inches, right? Had you not died, had you been here sooner, had your clear been a little better, had you not used flash level 1, and she has to use flash to kill you, then she won't have her flash to kill the flashless Yasuo. These are things that she's thinking about as a predatory assassin jungle. Going after flashless targets is just easy. And she gets the refresh on her double buff. So you're already I would even say you're kind of lucky here that had her electrocute come back up. Now I know you knew it wasn't back up because it has a cooldown, but they could have even killed you there. So now you can start doing the first time. If it weren't for these scuttles that you're getting, you would be very behind in XP. But these two river scuttles. There's never a time where you're just not hitting the entire team. The reason why I slow that down is because I want to just watch the bot lane fight. But you see how you dash into the camp here before using your Q? You're too close. Whereas by comparison, if you shoot, dash away, because that's going to give you another bullet on your E, by creating distance, they're going to have to run that straight line to reach you. So it's easier to land the full Q on the full camp. If you dash in and Q, you're too close and you're going to miss part of it. You want to shoot, dash away, and then Q. Because once you shoot and dash away, you're going to reload and still have your 2 shells again. So then you can keep the entire camp at distance, get your fleet footwork possibly, and then just shoot them again. But don't dash towards camps and Q them. You should be dashing away so that they follow you in a straight line and you land both parts of your Q. Are both in the top. Now it's worth pointing out here that this Garen's already losing lane very hard. So anytime you kind of leave your jungle, this is where you're potentially running into an altercation with Eve. You should know that whoever comes to help from the enemy team is going to be stronger than your Garen. This guy has match persistence and he's still dying Singed, who has a lot of AP. The Singed is actually scary. So if you're ever in a situation where topsides is going to turn into a 2v2, you should already know that you're probably not going to win, and you need to have an escape route in mind. You spend all your money, and you get your call fields, which is good. Now, when you're walking back to your jungle right now, you said that you have issues with map awareness. When you're walking back to your jungle right now, this is when you need to be looking at the rest of the map, because this is a time when you're actually doing nothing. If you're just watching your character walk here, like we are right now, we're not actually getting any information, right? This is wasted. So while your character is walking and spending this time, you really should be looking what's going on the rest of the lanes. What's going on bot lane? Wow, they're in trouble. If I try to go down there, Nami's not even going to have mana to help you do much. So you would have to do all of the work, essentially, if you think bot lane right now. Look top lane. Well, we already know Garen's getting his ass beat. Mid lane. Your Yasuo's still pretty strong right now. Problem is, right now he has no HP. So at least right now, a gank probably isn't happening. These are things that you should know before you even hit your blue buff. Because in all that time that you spend walking over here, you have enough time to look at every lane. Check the scoreboard and see who has flash, who doesn't. And then you can start doing your buff. You should have the time to check all of these things while you're walking. This will and another way to actually help with map awareness is the F1 keys. The same way that the spacebar brings the camera back to you and snaps it back into position, you can use the F1 through F5 keys to track your teammates. Rather than clicking on the map and using up mouse clicks and moving your mouse away from the game space where you're clicking, you can just tap the F1 through F5 keys to see what they see hovering over them, and then use spacebar to snap right back to yourself. That way you can see every lane and what your teammates are doing without even having to click off of yourself. This is actually a very pivotal moment right here. Now, other than your mid lane right now, who's based and getting back to full HP, top and bot lane are kind of getting beat, right? We saw that when we were walking back to the buff. We saw that Nami had no mana and they were both low, and there really wasn't much going on down there. So with that in mind, when you walk out to the river like this, you shouldn't be expecting any help. As a matter of fact, you should be expecting the opposite. And that's what happens. Here's another instance of where you're kind of somewhere you shouldn't be, a little too late, and you have to splash to get out. Splash will cost you a lot, especially as an aggressive enemy. Like, you need to have the flash up in order to secure kills and have better ganks, not just to protect your own life. It's very bad practice. How we avoid using our flash, because this is a consistent problem in this game. This happens literally almost everyone is off, I think, above one. And this is where you already know that they're on the tower and not healthy, and so it should not surprise you that Nami's basing. With that in mind, you should be getting into the habit of doing head counts before you walk out onto dangerous parts of the map. You should know if you are closer to the enemy or if you are closer to your teammates. And right now, we're going to give just red side vision. You can't see Karma, but you should already know that she's coming up to get you right now. You can't see Ahri right now. She just pushed it, but you knew she was just right there. Literally just right there. So her coming down here to contest you, you already see a pinch happening. The fact that Evelyn isn't already here waiting for you is kind of just lucky. Because if she was, you'd be dead already. But she went bottom side. So if Evelyn was here, you'd already be dead. But this is you choosing to, you know, put yourself in danger to get vision. Not necessarily a bad thing, but when you get collapsed on, it shouldn't be surprising. You should have been ready for this. They already have control of the river here, so choosing to walk out like this, possibly bot lane can't do anything, and mid, Sin's only got nothing. So this is another moment where you put yourself in too much danger with not enough intel, not enough vision, and it costs. So the way you avoid this going forward is being aware of the fact that somebody just based, and that you're on your own if you go out into the river. But there's actually one more thing to point out here. I could have gotten out of this situation without each of your flash. You choose to cast both your W and your Q to stop this Ahri from going in on you. Now, the reason why I think that's incorrect is because your W is your only slow, and possibly slowing Karma and keeping her from reaching you in the first place could have kept your flash alive. Because had you got snared, Kai'Sa, you know, she already comes up here and she's looking for the ult to kill you. But instead of kiting down and getting this pink ward, what you should do is actually be walking towards this Ahri, because Yasuo is your closest teammate here. He's also your most powerful teammate, and he's your most capable teammate this game. So rather than isolating yourself in the river between these two people, you see how they both fit on my screen right now? You should be moving towards this area, because this area of the map is also dark for you. Like, you only just now see this coming to hit you. But had you been looking, then it's not a surprise. So you cast both of your abilities, now all of a sudden you have nothing left to deal with this Karma. You would have needed your W to stop her from advancing on you, and then you would have walked this way towards your Yasuo. And then I think it's possible that you get out of this without using your flash. Game mostly slows down for now. It's a lot of farming. But there's that dragon we're talking about, right? And now here's that 10. But there's another game. You get the kill here, but there's just something. You get spotted out right here, but it's by Singed. Singed is the one that left lane. I'm willing to bet that you thought it was Evelyn here. Spotted you, and I'm willing to bet that you thought she was coming to flank you immediately with the help of the wrist cuddle. So that you started running away because you didn't want to get pinched. But you see that Yasuo needs to help to win this fight with these enemies, so you walk out there. But I think this is where I'm at. This is another one of those moments where, no, this was your whip scuttle. So even if someone does try to find you here, you would have. But you have vision of Singed. And then you get spotted. You shouldn't necessarily run away just because you get spotted, because they already see you, right? If you run back into your jungle, everyone just knows that, hey, Graves is topside in his jungle, because we just spotted him out. You have double buff, you need to be out here asserting pressure, which is what you do. You know, you guys kill the Ahri, but you probably should have ran in here a little sooner. Your Yasuo is good. He plays this pretty well. Had he been any worse about it, he probably would have died because of your hesitation. But this game mostly slows down for now. You go topside, but unfortunately, he just can't be helped right now. He's too weak. So you're mostly kind of just stuck farming. actually get a lot of good armor. But how you spend it is actually really, really bad. And back up. This is really crucial. This is the other like core thing that I think you probably don't know about Graves that really changes how you should be itemizing. Now, I know when you go into the shop, it tells you that you need boots, warrior enchantment, and then it tells you to buy a PD. And this is under the essential items tab. Like, this is the items that you should rush. But you buying 2 daggers here is actually pretty bad. Buying 1 is okay, because you could turn it into Berserker Greaves, but building PD second on Graves is instead of Cleaver, especially after the price was increased. You just don't do it, because there's a bunch of reasons, and right now I'm going to try to give you a quick version of why. PD costs 300 less than Cleaver, and what you're getting is attack speed, crit chance, and movement speed, versus the 300 extra gold for Cleaver, in which you're getting 40 AD, 400 health, 20% CDR, movement speed from the Rage passive, and armor shred. Now, Black Cleaver is very OP on Graves, because every time you shoot bullets, each one of those bullets applies a stack of the Black Cleaver. So if you shoot somebody once and they get hit with 4 pellets, you just shredded, what is it, 6% or 5% per, 20% of their armor. Next shot, it's already fully stacked. On top of that, this CDR that you get, on top of the CDR from Warrior Enchantment, basically acts as attack speed for Graves. It's more dashes, which means you'll have more armor. You'll be tankier. It's more attack speed because you reload a bullet every time you dash, and the cooldown reduction on Graves E is multiplicative. The lower it gets, you're able to get it up even faster and even faster, because it lowers itself per auto attack. So the more you dash and the more you stay in combat, the lower the cooldown gets, like every 0.5 seconds. So if you can get the cooldown down to, I believe, 30% CDR, and it's a level 4 skill, with a 15-second cooldown reduction, you would have it down to about 10.5 seconds. So you, on top of, if you get 5 auto attacks in between there, it would be on more of a 7 to 8 second cooldown by comparison. You going PD means that you don't get any of that AD, you don't get any of that health to keep you alive through the burst that anyone on that team has. You don't get the cooldown reduction, which means less ease, and because you don't actually have a large amount of AD yet, the critical strike itself is not even that worth it. Most Graves players shouldn't be getting their PD until 3rd or even 4th item. You should be getting almost all AD and cooldown reduction instead, because of the way the cooldown and the bullet reloading of the E works. It is simply not valuable to get PD second, despite what the Riot shop says. You shouldn't be doing it. PD is a 3rd or 4th item on Graves. You should be getting probably Cleaver or Yumu's, or in this case, Hex Drinker and Maw before you buy a PD. So this is a very important turning point in the game. Like I said, it is okay to get 1 dagger, because 1 dagger builds into Berserker Greaves, but you just filled up your inventory with items that are not that effective yet, and you're already falling behind in gold and XP. This is kind of a double whammy. This is probably the hard moment where the game turns out of your favor, and I think you cannot carry anymore, because of the fact that there's already an enemy team that's snowballing. I think he's the better jungler in this case. It looked like that guy was smurfing, and he's at least more comfortable on his character than you are. So all this Black Cleaver interaction, like, this stuff is really important to know. It's why you buy that item second, and it's why you don't buy PD second, like what the shop says. Black Cleaver is the same as Darius. 1 auto attack basically stacks the whole thing. It's just OP and you gotta get it. So this is where we start. The game does start slowly. Now you do pick up a kill in karma here, which is good, but you choose to go back in. Now, we have to quantify why this is bad, or else just saying that this was a bad fight doesn't really do much. So your smite's on cooldown. You just use your R, and your flash isn't up for a couple seconds. And you already know that Evelyn's bot lane in this case. We just saw her. Like, they just killed Nami. So when you jump back in, this is effectively a 2v2 that you're taking. This is not just a 1v2 on the Kai'Sa, this is a 2v2. So heading into the fight, you know, you just saw... Okay. Evelyn played the board on you, so you knew she was here. And then you left blue because they were going to take it. So now Evelyn being here is not a surprise. You already know that she's here, right? So this is another time where we're talking about the head counting and how you be more map aware. You know that she's here and that they're going to take that, and that your teammates are further away. And you're with your kind of weaker side teammates right now. And one of them's dead. So you kill Karma, but it costs you your ultimate. So you can't really go back in here. You just can't. Evelyn hit level 10, she has your blue, she's way stronger than you, she has more items, she's ahead. And your easy is behind the Kai'Sa, essentially, because his mana immune's not done and he doesn't have Sheen. So you're jumping into a very lopsided 2v2. You guys will. All of a sudden, you're just you shouldn't even use flash to get away. Now I know it looked good, like you flashed that Blenar. Unfortunately, Isa still has her flash. Now she used her flash to kill you, so you can say, oh well, at least I got her flash. This is just one more example of you using your flash, get away, but you still die in the end. The way this should look is that you, the jungle, should gank the Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa should have to flash away from you to avoid dying. When these kinds of things happen, you as a jungle have to use your flash defensively, but then you still die. This removes so much pressure from the map, from your team. You are so much less scary when things like this happen. So in order to avoid this to begin with, you have to be more mindful of who's around you. Is the enemy closer to me, or is my team closer to me? And you also choose to jump into a fight where you earn a gold and XP advantage. It's just you have to see what you would have done instead. So you want the kill on Karma, and you already probably feel like this game's getting away from you. So you go for the kill on Kai'Sa, but we already know that doesn't work. So you don't go for Kai'Sa. $1,000 gold. Well, you could go back and buy. You could path to top side and clear. Your red comes up kind of soon. You could push down top. Not really. Your only options here really are to back and spend that gold. Because once you die with all this gold in your pocket, you know, it would have just been better to spend it and get back out onto the map to begin with. Now the reason goes back to why I said the double daggers was bad. Had you not spent that extra dagger on this and got a longsword instead, you could have gone back and finished a phage right now. But right now, because you have this extra dagger in your inventory, you don't have the 1250 gold that you need to buy that. So you have items built towards the items that you don't need right now. So these mispurchases and then dying on top of it, you're losing so much ground by not being more conservative and treating yourself like someone who needs to get farmed up first. But we're going to skip forward to the last like 10 or so minutes of this game.
team double kill.
So you buy Merc Treads and AD, and this is where it starts to get bad, in my opinion. You know you need these Merc Treads, but it's kind of already too late, right? Their entire team is magic damage. This is more of a game where you would have wanted to get ahead and then buy a Hex Drinker, not fall behind and absolutely need Merc Treads just to not die. So in terms of what Graves has to do in order to carry a game, like get strong and become overwhelming, well, the enemy jungle is already scarier than you, and they can kill you 1v1, so that's already not happening. And now you have two items that both can kill each other, I think ideally at this point you would have already had the Phage, already had this top side cleared if you didn't die bot lane, and then probably almost be level 11 right now. And you'd probably be about 500 gold away from your Black Cleaver. All of a sudden, level 11 with Black Cleaver looks a lot better than level 10 with some daggers and a long sword and Merc Treads. And I think you would agree. This is kind of the point of no return for this game. Mainly because before you guys even walk into this bush here to try to contest this dragon that you shouldn't be contesting, your bot lane's dead, right? So you're basically walking into a 2v4 here. I know Yasuo is strong. I know you feel like this game's getting away from you, and it is. It already has. But this is not the play you make to come back. This would have to go so perfect in so many ways for this to even work that it's like you guys are both going. It almost would have been, but you guys end up losing 2. Seeing that bot lane was dead, you know, they're only finally getting back out onto the map. And you just have to make the decision to not do this. What you would have done instead of taking this dragon fight, probably just farm these two and get your level 11. But now you can't. Because you have don't build it. So where you could have been right now, even with the early deaths that you had, even with things that happened, had you not built this extra dagger, and had you not went bot lane and died to the Kai'Sa and the Eve, you could have been level 11 with your Cleaver. You wouldn't have had your upgraded boots yet, but you would have had Cleaver, which is better. But at this point, with the current state of your inventory, this game is just kind of over. She's 10 stacks, and not just 10 stacks, but she's got 1900 gold. So she's going to finish her Lich Bane, and no one on your team can really stand up to them anymore. Baron's useless. You're not sure yourself.
Has been destroyed.
This is the last flash we're going to talk about. So you just saw all the Twitch went down. They use their ultimates. But just because people have their ultimates down doesn't mean you're safe. There are certain things that you always have to look out for, and Ari Charm is one of them. And of course, now, in Universe B, where you have Black Cleaver, and you're level 11, or you are level 11, but in Universe B where you have 400 more HP, they don't kill you this easily. And I think if you also don't walk under the tower, you also don't die. Now, this game's kind of already over. I know that you're already tilted at this point. Or if I would be tilted, I have this weird my team. But there has to be a point where you stop chasing. Because just like you saw them use their ultimates here on Yasuo, you saw Yasuo use his as well. And you didn't even use yours, you kind of just died. So I think this is already where the game is a little too far gone. But I think you could agree with me that if you had 400 more HP and didn't overextend, that it still might even turn out to be a good play. If you are them both and potentially Yasuo gets in another auto attack, I think you could see this working out. Because you'd also would have 30 more AD from the finished cleaver, and singular auto attacks fully stack the Black Cleaver, so your Yasuo would have also done more damage. Black Cleaver is even more important to buy in games where you have multiple AD teammates, because you help Ezreal do more damage, you help Yasuo do more damage, and you would even help this weak Garen do more damage, and he kind of needs it. So, kind of in total here, if we were to go back to very crucial moments of the game, I think level 1 here, not leaving the fountain, even though this guy didn't even leave the fountain that early either, you still could have gotten here. I think the second most important part that kind of shows me your weaknesses, if you will, in terms of your map awareness, definitely right here. You walking into the river when your team is this weak and someone is basing, if you do this, you have to be ready for this pinch, right? You should expect it. Not only did you kind of panic and cast your abilities at the wrong person, but you went the wrong way entirely. You need to move towards your teammates, not towards the enemy, and get stuck with them. Both of these plays, the first one and this one, they cost you your life as a very... and as an assassin, aggressive jungle flashes on the enemy, not the enemy. And yeah, the double daggers, definitely Black Cleaver second. I think we've covered most of the reasons by now. I know the shop says the like you don't even have that AD. So that kind of sums it up. Hope that helps you out. Remember to use your F1 through F5 keys in order to keep better track of your teammates, and try to clean up some of your micro on your jungle camps, namely the wolf camp. But a lot of your farming stuff, it all looked pretty good. Looked like you're pretty familiar with the Graves combo and like the length of your skills, like when you got the karma down here. So more practice will continue to work for you. Just keep an eye on your build paths and your defensive flashes and getting places more quickly. The game starts at 15 seconds. I hope that is helpful, and good luck in solo queue.